Hi guys, Saint here, and I want to talk to you guys about the meta for the game after the B patch drop today. As we all know, Ari and Neela were like very popular in the meta, and I still do think that those builds are playable if you high roll them. But I think the meta is going to be pushed more into like 3 and 4 cost builds, so we're going to go over some of the 3 and 4 cost builds that are going to be popular in this patch. And I think this is probably going to be the most popular one. It's Jinx reroll with Wukong, which people kind of already played a little bit on the last patch, but it kind of would fall over to a high roll Ari build. But now I think since Ari's not in the meta as much, I think this build's going to be a lot more popular. And I think BIS is Rage Blade, Hurricane, and then you probably want a Last Whisper, or you can even do another Hurricane or another Rage Blade. And then BIS Wukong is Stone Plate, and then you get Redemption for healing. And then you can just put your secondary items on Kog'Maw. You're going to go level 7 with this build and reroll for Jinx 3, Kog'Maw 3, and Wukong 3, and then you're just going to add more preservers in. Like if you find Morgana on 8, you can put Morgana in, and you can run 3 preservers, or you can run Zillion or something like that. And then the next 3-cost build we're going to talk about, which was already a build that was like playable in the last patch, but kind of same story is that these builds are going to be slightly stronger because a lot of the builds that were holding them down are going to be, kind of out of the meta. So you're going to be running 5 mages with Galio. Where's Galio? You have Galio, and then you can either run, usually you run, where is he at? You run Mordekaiser with it as your other tank. So 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have a floating slot, which you can usually put like Chrono in. You put like Zillion or Karma, or you can just put like more frontline units. I think Zillion's completely fine because that gets Chrono, which is going to heal your frontline. Or you can also put, if you high roll and you find Nora, you can actually play 7 mage with this as well. BIS Vygar is blue buff, Nashers, and Deathcap. But if you can't, get those exact items, don't worry about it. You can go Sojin, you can go Jewel Gauntlet. Like, don't worry about like BIS Vygar. It doesn't matter as much. I think the thing that actually really matters is making sure that you have good Vex tank items. Like you want like Warmog. I mean, you want Stone Plate, and then you either want like Redemption or Warmog. And then you can put all your secondary care items on Nami. Like she likes Morello, red buff, any type of mana generation, all going to be good. And then you can put secondary tank items on Mordekaiser. If you're uncontested Mordekaiser, you can actually go Mordekaiser 3 in this build, as long as Vex and make him like a secondary backup tank. But obviously you need a lot of items to do that. So, and then I think that's it for. I mean, there's like a Katarina reroll build you can do, but that's basically just the Neela reroll build. And we'll just go over that build real quick in case. Because it kind of was becoming more unpopular in the meta as the game was, as the meta was like kind of shaping out. So I think this build's a little bit weaker because they nerfed Fiora, but I still think it's like going to be pretty decent. Pretty much this build, you just you reroll Katarina, Neela, and Akali, and then you just play Shen and Hecarim. Play Shen, Hecarim. And then you play a random Kalista to give you the fairy. And also that gives you multi-striker. And then BIS for this is pretty much you just go like, I think probably like this is like Last Whisper, BT, and then you can go Sterix probably. And then Akali, you want Edge of Night, and like some kind of healing like Hodge. You want like Hodge, IE, and Edge of Night, or some type of bruiser item. You can do Sterix on her as well. But I think Edge of Knight's the best for aggro dropping. But I mean, her third item, just make sure it's a defensive item. That's all that matters. And then after you upgrade these, you can throw all your throwaway AP items on Gwen and Katarina, and then you pretty much roll for this build on level 6. You can also like go if you see you're like a little bit contested, you can level to 7 and play more around Katarina or like hitting Gwen or hitting Kalista or something like that. Like if you see you're not really going to be able to hit Neela or Kali, you can do that. And then you also have all the level 8 builds that people are going to be playing. So I'll just go show you probably the 2 most popular builds. I mean, obviously there's like Portal's Rise, which is going to be like something that's being played. But I think people are going to be still playing a lot of Kalista. Like Kalista is still going to be they nerfed this build a lot because they nerfed Fiora. But the standard build for this is just going to be like Rakan, and you're going to have Kalista, and then you're going to have Akali for multi-striker. Where's she at? Akali. And then you're going to throw Fiora in, which is a warrior. And then you get Witchcraft and Shapeshifter through Nico, who's kind of useless, but she's in there. So this is like your basic build, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, of course, obviously the best build is the fairy item. And you go Rage Blade and then Last Whisper. The main thing is you have to have Rage Blade on Kalista. If you do not have Rage Blade on Kalista, it's an insta. And then put all your tank items on Nasus. You don't have to run Shen, but you can. This is like a floating slot. This can be a Preserver, or it could be Tom Ken. Sure, it can be like anything like that. Also, let's say you whiff, you don't hit Nasus. Let's say you hit Taric 2 instead. You can also play like Taric 2. You can play pretty much any of the 4-cost frontliners you hit. So like don't tunnel on like the Nasus or like this type of frontline. And then you put all your Bruiser items on Fiora. So you mainly want to focus on tank items, and then Kalista items, and then Fiora gets all the secondary items. And then the last build we're going to talk about is kind of a flex around that. It's basically just playing almost kind of like the same build, except you're playing Varus as your carry instead of Kalista. And this build's really good if you find Smolder when you're doing, like, let's say you do your level 8 roll down, you find Smolder. Really good. You can off carry Smolder. I don't think Varus is a very good like primary carry. Like he needs somebody to like carry with him. So if you find Smolder on your roll down and you're rolling for Varus, or you have Pyrospat, then like you can play like some type of build. Like you probably don't play Arcana in this. You probably play like you can play like 4 Blaster, or you can play Shyvana if you find Smolder, so you can get anti-heal. It looks probably more something like this, and you can like throw like maybe Tom Kench in there. Or you don't need Hecarim. Like these slots are all floating. Basically, it's just the Pyros, and then you play Smolder, and then you play like whatever frontline you're hitting. You can play like Arcana. You can play Taric. You could play Tom Kench. You can play 4 Blaster. Like it's very flexible. There's also a version where you can play Olaf as your secondary king. You play like Olaf, Diana. Where's she at? You play like Olaf, Diana, and then Swain instead of this as your thing. So you're probably not gonna get Smolder. So like Swain, and that gets 3 Frost, and then you still have all your other stuff, and you get Shapeshifter. And then you can just like plug in more units with that. So like there's a lot of like variations of this Pyro build you can play based on just basically like play off what you're hitting. And yeah. And you can also do like Pyro Camille, that's another one too. And then like the last build we're gonna talk about is this Arcana. This is like what I think is the premier Fast 9 build. It's probably gonna be the strongest cap in the game if you can actually get to it. Basically the whole premise of this build is you're just gonna be playing as many Arcana as possible. And you're going to have Taric. Where's my boy Taric at? Tarique. And then you have Galio. So this gives you 3 Portal. And then you have, what am I missing? I'm missing Hecarim. So this gives you your front line. It gives you 4 Arcana. And then it gives you also a really solid front line because you have all the foundation to that. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you have floating slots, which can be extra units. It could be 4 Scholar. I think 4 Scholar is like pretty solid. You can run like a boom, and then throw in your 4 Scholar, which is going to be Zoe, or it's going to be, you can either do Zoe or you can do Bard. Like I think the 4 Scholar doesn't really matter. You don't have to do 4 Scholars. You can add more frontline if you want, but I think this is generally what you want to do. And obviously the best items for Rise are like Death Cap, and then like Red Buff is because you obviously want anti-heal. Where's Red Buff at? It could be, you get the idea. It's Death Cap, Red Buff, and then +1. Like usually like attack speed or AP. It could be like Rage Blade. Sojin is like kind of mid on Rise. You don't really have a ton of that. And then you put all your secondary carry items on Xerath, and you can basically make anybody in here a tank. I prefer Taric or Tom Kench in this situation. But yeah, the build kind of looks like this. This is going to be like not a sort of a Fast 9 build, but it's mainly like you roll down on 8. You hit like your build on 8 is probably going to look something like, I don't know, something like this or something, you know? Where you have like, because you can hit all these units on level 8. You have your Rise. You go 8, and you put Xerath in to clean up and be your final carry. You can also plug Nora in to be a secondary carry if you find Nora. There's a lot of like ways you can play this. You can also play 8 Portal if you hit the Portal +1 spat. So those are the builds that I think are going to be very popular on this patch and are going to do good. And also there's the hero augments. Don't forget about those. Those are going to be really good, but I mean, those are on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, I hope that this helped you guys out, and good luck on your climb out there. Bye-bye.